Hey everyone, welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me for this explainer. We're going to dive into something pretty fascinating today. We are taking a magnifying glass to the actual mechanics of clear language. Think about it. How do writers structure information so that it doesn't just inform people, but actually protects them? We're going to analyze discipline-specific words, voice, and technical terms in expository texts by completely deconstructing a real-world community health advisory about dengue fever. We'll see exactly how language is engineered for a crisis. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the power of precise words, then look at everyday versus technical language, active and passive voice, 3 ways to define terms, and finally, how this all applies in the real world. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The power of precise words, and why words actually matter in a crisis. You know, when a community's health is literally on the line, clear communication isn't just a nice to have, it is absolutely critical. Listen to this excerpt from a community text called Keeping the Barangays Safe from Dengue. It says, "Dengue is a mosquito-borne disease that can affect families in the community, especially during the rainy season. It's a super simple but really urgent hook. It immediately hits you with what the threat is, who is at risk, and when that risk peaks. It sets the stakes right out of the gate." But hold on, let's look closer at that sentence. Quick question for you. Do you actually know the difference between just an everyday word and a technical term? Think about the sentence we just read. Can you spot the vocabulary that belongs specifically to, say, a health discipline, compared to the words you'd casually toss around with your neighbors? That brings us to Section 2. Everyday versus technical language, decoding discipline-specific words. Writers don't just pull words out of a hat, right? They choose them for very specific reasons. Take a look at this breakdown. On one side, we have our everyday words: mosquito, dirty water, sickness. Totally fine for a casual chat. But on the flip side, look at the technical terms: Aedes mosquito, stagnant water, mosquito-borne disease. These are discipline-specific. They belong to public health and science. Dirty water could just be a muddy puddle, but stagnant water, that specifically means water that isn't flowing, which is exactly where these mosquitoes breed. Using those technical terms completely upgrades the accuracy of the message. So why go through the trouble of using these specific terms? Well, it's about precision. They give accurate information tied directly to fields like health or agriculture. In a public health advisory, you literally cannot afford ambiguity. Technical terms prevent confusion. When an advisory is precise, it empowers residents to make informed, highly effective decisions. Basically, clarity equals safety. Moving on to Section 3, active and passive voice. Who is doing the action? Okay, let's shift gears from vocabulary to syntax. The voice of a sentence is kind of like a spotlight. It deliberately directs where the reader focuses. Take this active sentence. Health workers remind residents to remove breeding sites. In the active voice, it's crystal clear who is doing the action. The health workers are doing the reminding. It's a direct instruction. Zero doubt about who is involved. Now, immediately contrast that with another sentence from the same text. Cleanup drives are conducted to reduce mosquito population. Notice the shift? This is the passive voice. The focus isn't on who is conducting the drive. The actor is actually completely missing. Instead, the writer wants you focused on the action and the result: the cleanup drives and reducing mosquitoes. It's a brilliant little trick writers use to guide your attention. To put it simply, writers flip between active and passive voice depending entirely on their end goal. Do you need to give a direct instruction and show exactly who needs to do it? Boom, use active voice, like barangay leaders collect data. Do you need to emphasize an action or a result and it doesn't really matter who does it? Go with passive voice, like water containers should be covered. Both are incredibly useful tools depending on what the public needs to focus on in that split second. All right, Section 4. 3 ways to define terms, or basically unpacking meaning. In these kinds of texts, defining terms is crucial so that absolutely everyone understands the instructions. The first way writers do this with a conceptual definition. This is basically just the general meaning of a word. For example, our text says prevention means actions done to stop a problem before it happens. It's your classic dictionary-style definition that gets everyone on the same page conceptually. But sometimes, we need to be way more specific. That's where the operational definition comes in. This explains how a term is actually used or measured in the real world. So dengue cases isn't just a broad idea here. Operationally, it refers to the exact number of reported patients in a barangay for a single month. It takes a concept and turns it into hard, measurable data. But what if you need to be even more specific than that? Well, then you'd use the expanded definition. This gives more details, examples, and context. The source text tells us a breeding site is any place where mosquitoes can lay eggs. Okay, good to know. But then it expands, such as uncovered containers, old tires, and vases with standing water. This expanded definition is a real game changer because it helps residents identify actual, specific threats that might be sitting right in their own backyards. Which leads us nicely into Section 5, Real-World Application. Let's put it all together. Let's see how all these linguistic tools actually empower a community to take action. We take a technical term, say stagnant water, give it a simple meaning, water that is not flowing, and then drop it into an active sentence. The Aedes mosquito breeds in clean, stagnant water. Or take symptoms, defined simply as signs of a disease and used in a clear directive. Watch for common symptoms like fever and body pain. See how that works? This is exactly how an expository text bridges that gap between scientific jargon and life-saving public action. And honestly, this brings us to the core value of this whole explainer. Dengue prevention is a shared responsibility. In the Philippines, they call this bayanihan, communal cooperation. By understanding and sharing accurate information through clear, precise language, families are equipped to protect one another. Grammar and vocabulary, they aren't just dry academic exercises. In a health advisory, they are literally tools for community survival. So, I want to leave you with this thought to chew on today. How will understanding precise language help you make informed decisions in your own community? Next time you come across a health advisory, a disaster warning, or even just a local community poster, pay attention. Notice the discipline-specific words, check out the active or passive voice, and look for those operational definitions. Because the better you understand the language, the better prepared you are to act. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep on learning.